forth. So that's really the audit approach and how we get to give our opinion on these financial statements. This is like starting to go to some numbers that are Nicholas Senior reports. On page 13, this is where you see your fund balance levels. As of June 30th, 2021, the general fund ended the year with a fund balance of $4.7 million, which is up from the prior year balance of $982,000. As you'll see on future slides, that increase is based on a combination of higher revenues and a decrease in spending. One thing I want to point out, in that current year balance of 4.7, in there is $303,000 due from the food service fund, so that's shown as a receivable. So if that were not to be collected, the food service fund to pay back, then basically it means your general fund balance could be inflated by that amount. That's where we have a comment to report. And then your capital projects funds really remained consistent from year to year, $235,000 each year, not much is going on. On page 15 of the report, you'll see your revenues and expenses for the general fund. As I mentioned before, for 2021, general fund revenues came in at about $44.5 million versus $42.4 the year before. And your expenses this year came in at $41.16 million versus $42.2 the year before. So your revenues were up and your expenses were down. Also on page 15 is a breakout of your revenues. Your local revenues, which is the red bar, really remain, let's say, pretty consistent year to year, 22.1 versus 22.78 million between 2 years. And where you saw the increases with your state funding went from 17.6 up to 20.4, and then your federal went from 1.1 up to almost $2 million. Federal was up because of the additional COVID money. On the expenditure side, instruction, which is your largest by far, came in at $27.4 million versus $27.3 the year before. But where you saw some savings were with the support services, 9.3 versus 10 million. And then the other categories, so it was so 3.7 is your debt service, and then the 6.1 is your everything else. Some other comments. When you look at the report, pages 11 and 12 of the report to show basically how the district would look if they reported using full accrual instead of modified accrual. And when I say full accrual, basically full accrual accounts for all your assets and your liabilities. It shows all your long-term assets, such as your fixed assets, all your long-term liabilities, such as your bonds, and your pension liabilities, and your OPEB liabilities. Whereas modified accrual, which is the fund level data, which I went over earlier, is more of a short-term perspective. So there, all your long-term assets and your long-term liabilities are excluded. It's more your current current assets and liabilities. It's more the way you're used to seeing it internally in your monthly reports. On page 17 of the report, your general fund this year anticipated a budget increase of about $91,000, came in at a $3.8 million increase. This year, the board did authorize forgiving $483,000 in amounts that were owed to the general fund from the food service fund. So you'll see that accounted before in the report on pages 15 and 19. It's basically what shows a transfer in between the funds. The transfer out of the general fund, then a transfer in of the food service fund. It's really a non-cash item. It's really how you have to do it in order to wipe out those receivables and those payables. On page 15, there is this year a large refund of prior expenditures of about $914,000. The bulk of that is from the public school health insurance cooperative. This year you received, I guess a reimbursement of basically your excess contribution versus what the claims paid out. That's some excess money, so they get paid it back. And then on page 18, you'll see this year's food service fund has cash and receivables of about $189,000, and they owe the general fund $303,000, which is really why that comment came about. Based on these numbers, it doesn't really look like the food service fund can pay all that back. So I think it's something that needs to be evaluated going forward, so the numbers continue to grow. And then pages 58 through 61. On page 10 of the report, you'll see there's these long-term liabilities for pension and OPEB. And this recognizes this is basically the district's share of the liabilities with the PEASERS plan. You're involved with PEASERS through a pension and through other post-employment benefits. And these liabilities are measured on a 1-year lag. So the liabilities you see in the report are as of June 30th, 2020. This year, the district's the PAGER plan was 54% funded versus 56 the year before. The district's portion of that liability was 0.1114, which equates to a liability of $54.9 million, which is showing your statements. And that percentage is basically your covered payroll as a percentage of total payroll of all the employees that are in the plan statewide. And then with the OPEBs, that plan was about 5.7% funded as of June 30th, 2020. Your percentage is the same as for pension, and that equates to a liability of $2.4 million, which is shown in your statements. These are liabilities that you don't have to pay back. You don't have to cut a check to pay them back. It's just the way that it is being paid back. As you know, every year your PAGER's rate into the plan continues to go up, and that's basically how you're going to eventually get this liability. That's why you just continue to pay higher PAGER's rates. Every district throughout the state pretty much has the same type of large liabilities on their statements, so I wouldn't be overly alarmed. And then finally, on page 62, the district does offer some benefits to retirees outside of the PAGER's plan. And that's, the district does use Conrad Siegel as a separate actuary to measure that liability. And as of June 30th, this is actually measured as of July 1st, 2020, the liability was $1,069,000. There's no requirement to fund that, but it's something that needs to be recorded in your report. And this final wrap up, these are some things that we're required to communicate to the board, to governance. Is, during our audit, we did receive cooperation from management and members of the staff. The information that we requested was given to us timely. So from that standpoint, it helped the audit move along at a nice pace. There are no disagreements with management. We did have some audit adjustments that we proposed as part of the audit process, which were reviewed and approved by management or by Ed. So they were reflected in the statements. And then finally, there were no weighted entries. And what I mean by that is sometimes we'll come across something that really, an item that should be adjusted, but it may not be a material number. So we'll present to management and say, do you want to post it or not? And if they elect to not post it, we're required to communicate that to the board. And there's nothing like that this year. So no weighted entries. So basically every audit adjustment that we came upon was accepted, reviewed, posted by Ed. So that's a high level. Any questions?
No? No questions, Steve?
No?
Wow. Good job.
That's easy. Okay. Sure. Good. It wasn't too much to try to, yes, it's hard to
You buried
figure out how much stuff you do. What's that?
You buried them in numbers.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been through the whole report today. Yeah. All right.
All right.
If there's any questions, let me know.
Okay, I appreciate your time.
Sure. All right. See you. Bye.
Okay. As mentioned, we're going to have a Shine program presentation. The presenter couldn't make it. Move on now to item F, public comment. Gil Hall. We're going to try to adhere to the 3-minute rule. We had some discussions that have gotten a bit lengthy.
First of all, I wanted to talk about the Lions eye exams. I did get an email from Jack about that we're only going to do the preschool, kindergarten, and special needs. And I'd like to know why we're not offering this to the entire elementary center and even above.
Say, Gil, there's been some internal discussion, and I was on the board at the time when, what was his name? Dave Lyons came.
Dave
Leon. I'm wondering if we can't have him come back and do a presentation.
I'm sure he would. So far, the Lions have done 42 million students around the world. They do 3 million students annually, and they provided 500,000 pairs of glasses to children in need.
I think, Gail, the hang-up was, sorry if I can, may I usurp your public comment a little bit?
Okay.
Yeah, I think the hangup was that part of the documentation said that the recommended age range was at the lower ages, but then I had recalled that when Dave Leon were here, he had given us different types of information.
Right, you did.
And so, so when it comes to this, I kind of have the opinion that you have, that it would make sense to do the entire elementary center, but we have a new board, and I think that it would make sense to have this presentation done again, and then we can have a decision
Well, I
made.
just want to share something that I just found today. It was in a newspaper in South Carolina. The Lions just did exams in that school last Thursday. And according to the American Optometric Association, they've seen an increase in eye problems with children because of COVID. You can watch as they screen the lower grade kids and children get younger. The eye problems increase. The small computer screens have made many of them nearsighted. So this is becoming more of a problem. And so there's a lot more kids with nearsightedness about. Okay. I should underline some of those things. So I'm not sure what the problem is or why the board didn't bring this up in a meeting and discuss it in front of people like we did before. You know, why was it done?
It wasn't a board decision. The staff reviewed documentation and they made a recommendation. And it was based on the documentation of the Lions Club.
They do these exams not for just for little children, but they do it for bigger kids and they even do it for adults. So our kids are missing out. I mean, I gave you the statistics. The last time, you know, that 11% of our kids, 80-some kids, needed help. So, I mean, I don't know where I don't know where the staff is getting this idea that this isn't necessary, because our kids need this.
Can I address this?
Yes,